All right, everyone, I am going to go get started. Welcome to Simeio and CyberArk's machine identities discussion. If you're unfamiliar with Simeio lives and breathes identity. We are a services organization and a managed service organization that is global. We've been around for 17 years, and our mission is we know that identity can be a maze. And what we do for our clients is we create a straight line in that maze, a clear path forward in identity that's cost efficient and is simple. With us today, we have our partner, CyberArk, who's presenting with us. CyberArk is a leader in identity and access management. They're first to market with their privileged access tool and now cover a host of identity use cases. And together we'll be having this discussion. With me today, I have years and years of experience with IAM. First, we have Rajesh. He's Simeio's director of PAM. He's created technologies that Fortune 100 companies are using today, and he's got 20 years in IAM. Next, we have Rahul. Rahul is our senior director of services. He's worked with many organizations over the past 10 years, from strategy, execution, all the way to managing their services in IAM. Next, I have Kevin with us. Kevin is a strategic solutions engineer from CyberArk and focuses and has a niche understanding of machine identities. Lastly, I'm your host. My name is Ali. I am Senior Partner Development Manager at Simeio, and I support the relationship between Simeio and CyberArk. So what are we talking about today? So we'll start with what are machine identities exactly, and then we'll walk through the trends that we're seeing in the future and why those growth factors are happening. Next, we talk through the challenges and threats in not dealing with your machine identities. And then we get to a conversation about technology and solutions, and we'll show you how Simeio and CyberArk are coming together for that solution. So let's get started, and please post questions in the chat. We'll have questions at the end. All right, to get started, machine identities has become a little bit of a buzzword. All the IAM solutions are talking about it. Gartner is talking about it. But Rajesh, tell us exactly what are machine identities?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Yeah. So as Ali mentioned, we have been talking about machine identities a lot. It has become a buzzword, right? But again, what we have seen and become experts on are the human identities, where we have workforce identities, business, and then customer identities. But the organization has a lot more machine identities than a people identity, right? Or human identities. So again, what is machine identities, right? So when we see what all things comes under machine identities, again, machine identities are a part of non-human identities. But when we say non-human identities, there could be machines and there could be other types of non-humans, right? So first of all, what are the non-human identities? Like, apart from machines, we'll come to the machines, but you see that apart from machines, you also have other identities like organizations, legal entities. Sometimes even animals have been given RFIDs, their own identifiers. So you also have those kind of identities in the system. But again, large part of the organizations do not manage, or there is not so much of identities to manage them. But the key things are the machines. And what are the machines, right? Broadly into two categories: devices and workloads. Right? Devices, you all know what they are, like your laptop, your workstation, your mobiles, your digital assistants, any operational technology kind, the hardware kind of things that you see and touch every day, right? And there also are other types of workloads, like the VMs, the hosted virtual machines, containers, application services, and a lot more, right? So all those are categorized into workload identities, right? Again, both of these devices as well as workloads are the large part of machine identities, right? And just so you know, probably I'll give you one example of what is a machine identity you might have all seen, is that If you have seen a computer object in an Active Directory, that's one example of machine identity. Several of you might have seen it, right? So that's how I would just put it simply, right?
Thanks, Rajesh. And so we know what machine identities are, but they seem to communicate with each other. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So again, when we talk about these machines, again, we are talking about the workloads and then the devices here. How do they communicate within your organization? Is either what kind of communication, first of all, right? So you have authentication, you have exchange of sensitive information, and you also have things like token or frameworks, right? So largely, authentication could be represented either, you have credentials represented as a simple username password, or it could be a key, or it could be a certificate. And then we are talking about these, there are multiple types of, the keys or certificates that we look into, right? And also tokens, right? These are some of the ones that we, like, the passwords, SSL, TLS tokens, API keys, Kubernetes certificates, SPIFFE SV IDs, right? And then JSON web tokens. So all those things is how applications or the machines communicate with each other, and these are going to be in huge numbers, which we will talk more about in the coming slides.
Thanks, Rajesh. And we know that machines significantly outnumber human identities. Kevin, can you give us a little bit of understanding of what that projected growth looks like and those growth factors? Why are we seeing this growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Allie. So, I mean, if you look at this kind of graph that we have on here, the people is relatively flat. It's going up, but it's a pretty steady number. And, we kind of just go back in time a little bit where people started to virtualize their machines a little bit more. They started to take that cloud first and make that transformation in the industry. And then now you look at, the containerization of applications and such. So each one of these is needing its own unique machine identity. And this is causing that exponential growth. I think the numbers that we're really seeing right now it depends on the stats you look at, but anywhere from 85 to 100 machines for every one human out there. So it's a number that's growing quickly, and we really foresee it to continue only to go up.
Thanks, Kevin. Rahul, you manage all sorts of different clients, IAM programs. You're seeing this come up a lot. Can you talk us through what you're seeing in the field? What are the challenges your customers are having with machine identities?
Yeah, thanks, Ali. And hello, everyone. Yeah, so as we saw in the previous slides, right, the exponential growth of machines and, relatively bringing across machine identities. I think the biggest challenges that we see is one, and it stems from the major problem of proliferation of machine identities that's coming through a lot of the applications, IoTs, different workloads, cloud services, etc. But the other challenges that we are also seeing, and this is typically because of the proliferation as well, is around compliance, right? There's lack of ownership that we see across machine identities, and primarily there's a lot of decentralized management that comes through because of a lot of inconsistent processes, policies, a lot of manual or labor intensive kind of processes that are used to manage machine identities. And ultimately what happens is, it kind of opens up your attack surface, because your machine identities are typically carrying a lot of sensitive data. They have a lot of weak or shared credentials, which can be pretty much, leave you vulnerable as an organization. So the challenges that we see in organizations are across these four areas. One, the growth of those machine identities, the compliance piece, the processes, and the security.
Thanks, Rahul. And so lots of challenges. What are the impacts if not dealt with properly?
Yeah. So as we saw, right, major problem is the growth of these machine identities, right? The more they grow, the larger your attack surface. And look at it in this way. With people, it's pretty much limited in terms of growth. But with machines, as Kevin had mentioned earlier, right, there's 85 to 100 per person, right? So the larger the machine identities, the larger the attack surface, the bigger the damage. And what does the damage come in the form of? It comes in the form of financial, reputational damage, right? We see a lot of outages. Some component somewhere fails. There's an outage, and most importantly, the largest impact is about the administrative overhead. As we talked about, a lot of manual, labor-intensive ways of managing machine identities. That all causes a lot of administrative overhead. All of this, we are seeing today as impacts, but remember, this is going to compound exponentially because of the Certificate Authority of Browser Forum releasing, the SSL or TLS certificates to 47 days, and this is coming down every year from 398, this year to 200 next year, and then 100 next to that, and then 47. So I think this is going to compound further, and the earlier we start reining this, the lesser the impact on us.
All right, so we've talked through what are machine identities, what are their growth, the impacts of their growth. Now we're going to get into a conversation about how to actually manage them and keep them secure. So CyberArk and Simeio are coming together for this solution. So quickly, I want to talk about the partnership. So Simeio is CyberArk's highest designation of delivery partner. We were MSP Managed Services Partner of the Year last year, and we're on track to be it again this year. We've got 141 folks certified CyberArk experts, and we've completed over 60 CyberArk projects. Our organizations are linked at their core, and we are working together to find a solution for machine identities. I'm going to start to pass it over to Kevin. CyberArk has a solution for us that Simeio will be using. I want to bring it over to him to talk about what that product actually looks like.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali. So I wanted to first start by talking some of the things when we think about machine identities, what are some of the trends that we see in the industry that require, that level for crypto agility to be able to move fast. So you're ready to solve for this kind of more modern world where machine identities are growing exponentially. And I think probably most people heard about it or were maybe even affected by it last year when Google's had their distrust of Entrust. So, where it resulted in Entrust having to sell off, their public certificate authority business to a competitor because Google and the CAB Forum end up laying down the hammer and saying, hey, we're not going to trust certificates that are issued by you past a certain date. And kind of what we saw with some of our customers out there was that they had thousands of certificates that were spread across even more endpoints. And with that, they had to pull in hundreds of people because they hadn't taken the time to automate them at this point. They were just kind of, managing them and manually doing these processes. So they had to bring in hundreds of people, and it took them 6 weeks. And the big kind of takeaway that they realized was that without crypto agility, had this been a really, major event where they had to take those certificates away or revoke them rather after a couple of days, they would have been in a big, big pain. So that's a really big thing to look forward to and to kind of think about is if that were to happen again with another public certificate authority, do you have the crypto agility to kind of make those steps? As well, Rahul kind of touched on it a little bit as far as the 47 days that the CAB Forum has laid out by 2029 for all public certificates. Now you might be thinking, hey, maybe I just, because Google's kind of been leading the way on this. And so maybe we just won't use Chrome for that. Well, over 60% of browsers are Chromium based. So it's just not something that's going to be, you're going to be able to do. And so, like they said, the life cycles are going down to 200 days next year. So that's 2 renewals in a year because you're not going to do it at day 200. You're going to do it at probably day 150 or 170. Give yourself a little bit of leeway. The following year is really probably the most pivotal date because that one's coming the fastest because now you're going to be rotating those certificates or renewing them rather every 100 days. And again, you're going to do that probably 30 days earlier. So you're going to do that at the 70-day mark. So that's the day that companies really need to prepare for, because if you're ready for the 100 days, the 47 days will be easy because you already have that built in there. You already have that crypto agility to be taken care of when you get to that 47-day mark. Another thing, we've heard about it a lot in the news as far as post-quantum cryptography. Whether it was, some of the Microsoft and Google having their chipsets being able to do how many qubits of processing per second or whatever. And, we hear about these things all the time, and there's debate within the industry, whether it's going to be at 10 years or 5 years. It could even be sooner. So again, solving for that and being able to take care of those needs being crypto agile is very, very important. And then lastly, certificate authority expiration, whether it's having that from your public CA, gets distrusted, or if, your internal CA is going to expire and you want to move away from it, having a solution that's going to be able to take care of that and help you easily move to something else quickly is very, very critical for your business. And because kind of taking me to the right side of the slide here is for the resource problems. It's kind of the rough estimate is that there's a 50% shortage in the market for the skill set to take care of this problem. And the reason why that is because if you go back, right, it used to be a certificate could be good for 5 years, and then it got shrunk down to 3, 2. Now we're just over 1 year. And then, with everything CapForm's doing, it's going way down. So historically, you didn't really have to worry too much about it. You could ignore it more, kind of put that Post-it note over it and, check on it later. And the likelihood of getting affected too much wasn't, too bad. But the resource problems is a big deal for a lot of people. And that's where something like Simeio with the MSP can really help out. So, and if we look at how CyberArk Certificate Manager can help, it's really going to help you go out there and identify where these identities are. So, not only on your external publicly facing, but your internal ones as well. Let's say on your load balancers, your firewalls, being able to go out and find those and being able to say, hey, here's where you have all of your machine identities. And then being able to take the next step on it, be able to enforce policy, to be able to say, hey, we want to make sure that we're not only meeting industry standards, but our own internal compliance standards. So we're going to set minimum key algorithms. We're going to make sure the key usage is set appropriately. The CSRs are locked down. And then lastly, we want to be able to automate all of those things, because being able to identify, enforce policy, and automate it is really what's going to help companies be ready for the future within machine identity management. So let's just look at a real world example for 47-day readiness. We were working with a customer, and we went in there and we said, how many certificates do you think you have? And they're like, internal, external, we probably have about 7,800. We're like, okay, cool. So we went in, we did the actual discovery, took a little bit of time, and we got their full inventory. It was actually over 127,000. So very, very big discrepancy. So goes to show you why it is so important to have that centralized place to identify and discover all of your machine identities. Now, looking at that, that ratio of those certs, only 350 of them were public facing. So a relatively small number, but just under 1,600 of them were spread across over just 1,600 endpoints. So a large number. There's some bad practice in terms of certificate sharing going on there. And then none of them were automated. So the amount of time that would take just for these, 1,581 certificates to do this manually on a 47-day readiness scale is just under 60,000 man hours, right? You can kind of see how the math shakes out there. Roughly 3 hours per certificate times 12 renewals a year. That's kind of where you get that. And the cost to do that, if you're going to pay, $70 an hour to get this done in a manual process, it's $4.2 million. Even if you take that number down and you say, hey, you know what, our resources get paid far less than that. And let's say we cut it in half and it's $35 an hour. It's still $2.1 million. Now, again, most companies aren't going to take that hit. They're going to automate it in some way. But when you don't have that singular source of truth, if you will, for where things are being identified and automated and the ability to enforce, you're going to leave gaps and you're going to cause problems within your organization that is going to either like give you that reputation damage if it's a public facing one. And you could have some, or simply lost man hours as well. We've seen where when a revenue generating app goes down, it cost a company $1 million an hour, and they were down for 5 hours. So just for an afternoon, $5 million. So very, very heavy in terms of the numbers that go along with that.
Thanks, Kevin. And we know that machine identities aren't siloed. They intersect with PAM. They are part of an identity strategy. Can you talk to us a little bit about how they interact with PAM and identity holistically?
Yeah, so I think, looking back, we've always kind of thought of them as two very separate things. You have like your team that's going to handle your PAM and your team that's going to handle your MIS kind of things. And really the kind of intersection and the cross between them now is that, identity is critical to what is going on at your organization. A lot of people, they took when we had that kind of global pandemic 5 years ago, everyone's 5-year plan to get people to be able to work remote turned into about a 50-day plan. And you had to be able to do that. And you had to be able to do that quickly and be able to move and have that crypto agility there. And identity became even more important. And everyone would say, oh, the perimeter's gone. The perimeter's gone. But the perimeter is not gone. The perimeter is still very much there and intact. But the new perimeter is identity. And regardless of if it's human or machine, that's what needs to be protected. And that's where CyberArk and Simeio can really help out and make sure that your organization is leveraging the right identity with the right amount of privilege at the right time.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. So we've talked about what the technology is and what it can do to help secure machine identities. That's one part of it, but we are a partnership, and Simeio's role in it is the services we can provide to really help implement it. So Rajesh, talk us through a little bit of the different kinds of services that could be helpful that Simeio offers.
Sure. Yeah. So far, we have seen what are machine identities and why it is important to manage them. But how do you manage? There have to be different aspects of management, right? You have to understand your environment. You have to discover and understand what's the kind of risks that you're facing. What's at risk, right? So that's where our advisory services comes in and helps you to identify, kind of estimate the risk, and then kind of see what's at stake, right? Then is where our professional services kind of offerings comes into picture, where this is where we kind of help out in implementing a particular technology, or I should say a service, right, at your for your organization. And then once you implement, you need to manage it. You need to make sure that service is available. So that's where our managed services offering comes into picture. And then finally, so you have identified, implemented, and then started to make that service available by managing it. But what you need to do is that you need to apply that to all your assets. You need to onboard all of them and then start managing it in a place. So that's where our onboarding services comes into picture. So this is how we kind of arrange our services, and then kind of jump into the situation that the customer is in, and then kind of provide our services, right?
Thanks, Rajesh. And we wanted to double click into the joint offering that we have together that we think could be a really great fit. We talked about how machine identities isn't siloed. Can you talk through Simeio and CyberArk's joint managed service offering?
Sure. So I think few slides ago, we just had Kevin mentioning that these are specifically seen as siloed, but they are not really, right? So that's where our offerings comes into picture, especially the managed service offering, where we have a comprehensive offering that handles both privileged access and the machine. Privileged access, again, I'm referring to more use cases related to human-based access. And then we have machine-based privileged access also coming into picture in the comprehensive offering. But sometimes we have to, have an option where maybe privileged access management has reached a point of maturity, and then we need to bring up the machine, identity side of things. That's where we have a focused offering that would only focus on the certificate management, especially the TLS certificates and then the Kubernetes certificates, and then manage them, and then kind of take them through the life cycle management, and also automate the provisioning of them, which is the key part of the 47-day readiness and other things that we are talking about. So, yeah, go ahead.
Is that it, Rajesh? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
Yes. I mean, certainly, yeah. The one thing I would like to add here is that every organization is different, right? They have their specific, unique scenarios. That's where our offerings are flexible enough to be bespoke, but at the same time, we also employ the proven successful processes which we have gained through our expertise, both of us, like Simeio and CyberArk, right? So we bring the best to the table, but at the same time, the offering is flexible enough to be bespoke.
Thanks, Rajesh. All right, I am going to have a look in the chat. You are all welcome to ask questions, post them if anyone has any.
Yes,
All
come on, audience. If I'm pretty sure there's a lot of questions out here. This is an evolving area. It's been around. It's not brand new, but there's a lot of complexities that come as it's evolving. So I'm pretty sure there are a lot of questions. So keep shooting them.
All
At the same time, we can reach out to us, right?
So
I'm sure a lot of you are processing what we have just discussed, and it's an evolving, thought as well, right? So we have technologies that are evolving, emerging. We have practices. We have trends that are emerging. I think this is going to be a topic that we'll talk for the next many years to come. I'm sure we will have a lot of questions. Please reach out to us in a way, right? Over to you, Ali.
Yep. So I will be following up with everyone on this webinar, giving you guys space to book some time with us, our consultants, our experts. We talked a little bit about the resource shortage on this topic. As I said, we have 141 CyberArk certified experts, tons and tons of deep knowledge in IAM. So I will reach out to all of you guys, and you are welcome to reach out to any of us, and we can book some time and space, and we will connect you with the right person to help you solve your problems. But anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys all so much for coming, and we will talk soon.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone.
Have a good day.